Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful day. Today I was going to release a video talking a little bit about champion design and giving some of my opinions on a lot of the older champions that have sort of been left by the wayside. Champions like Mordekaiser and Poppy, who have been almost forgotten in the community. What it is about their kits that ended up leading them to be like that and what Riot should do to improve them in the future. But I think I'm going to save that video for another day. Today I want to talk to you guys about a very hot topic that's been going on in the community, and that's the topic of the whole the whole Sandbox Mode debacle and the giant thing that's been going on with Riot's transparency. Now, before I begin, I'd like to give a big shout out to Monte Cristo, who made an amazing video that basically sort of highlights every complaint and every sort of viewpoint of almost this entire thing, but especially coming from a competitive person's standpoint. He made this giant 40-minute video that's worth watching every minute of it. You guys should all go check it out. Links in the description if you would like to. Where I think I'm probably going to rehash some of his topics over here, but he gave a great constructed opinion that I think is fantastic, and you guys should all go watch it. And I apologize if I rehash some of these things, but I want to give my own opinion sort of overall on this entire topic of transparency and how it's been affected by this giant Sandbox Mode debacle. But anyway, let's go ahead and just sort of go all the way back. About a month ago, I made a video that was titled, "What's Really Wrong with Riot Games?" It was a video that was a little bit divisive, where a lot of people agreed with it, but a lot of people also really hated it. Basically, what the video was it was made during a time where a lot of people were complaining about a bunch of different things in the community, saying, why don't we have replay mode? Why don't we have new client? Why don't we have this and that and the other thing? A lot of people were complaining about a lot of different things with the league, and I made a video basically saying that to the community and Riot, you don't have to give us a replay mode right now if it's not physically possible, but if it's not physically possible, at least tell us that, right? Be a little more transparent with the decisions that you're making so we can be more understanding of them, and hopefully if you are, then everyone can be a little bit happier, right? Hopefully the community can complain for more transparency rather than complaining for replay mode if that's impossible. And hopefully Riot can be a little more transparent. And it looks like that's exactly what they're doing. They recently came out with this blog titled Riot Please that sounds like it's going to be a regular thing where they're going to sort of talk about what they're working on, what they're not, and why that is. And it's I think it's really great. It's exactly what we asked for. What I asked for and what a lot of people asked for afterwards, where they're doing exactly that. They're being transparent. For instance, with the replay example, they said that right now, no, we aren't working on replays, but that's not because we don't want to give them to you. That's because the infrastructure is not in place for us to make replays happen. I mean, just think about Riot's growth for a second. Riot started out as a company of like 60 people 6 years ago that has grown into the largest game on the planet, the largest PC game in history. That's a pretty large amount of growth in a small amount of time for a company that was developing their first video game ever. Probably expected like 100,000 players to play it. Now they have millions. It's understandable if the infrastructure is not in place there, and if they need to work on that rather than give us replays. I mean, to put them in perspective for how large Riot has grown, Riot is a company that has like thousands of employees, more than 1,000 employees, probably like 2,000 at this point, right? Valve, on the other hand, has like 330, okay? I mean, ZeniMax Media, who's the company that owns Bethesda and a lot of other game development companies, the people that made Dishonored, for instance, they have 600 in total, all those game developers. And like another one, Take-Two Interactive, who made BioShock, and they're the holding company who develop and publish and everything, BioShock and Grand Theft Auto and all those games. They have like 2,500, and I would not be surprised if Riot has that many employees soon. They're a company that has grown incredibly large because of this one video game, League of Legends, and I think that's a really important thing to remember with regards to all of this. League of Legends is like their core game, and their entire livelihood rests on this one game and how it has grown into popularity. So I guess I'll save this a little bit more for later on, but basically they've grown very fast, right? They're a very large company with a very large game, And for stuff like the replay and new client and everything, they have to update infrastructure, understandably so, to give us stuff like replays. But they also announced that they are not working on a sandbox mode in the same Riot Please post. Now, overall, I think the entire post is awesome. I think it's great that they're giving more transparency, but they really sort of missed on this sandbox mode statement where they said basically that they aren't going to give a sandbox mode, some sort of mode where players can just go in and do stuff like practice flashing over walls with flash on a 0-second cooldown, where players can just practice stuff like that over and over. They said that they don't want to give us anything like that players can use to get better on their own, because they don't want there to be an expectation of players. They said they don't want there to be an expectation of players having to use it to get better at the game. Something along those lines, which a lot of people disagreed with and a lot of people got really angry over. If League of Legends is going to be an esport or any sort of competitive game, that's just something that happens in all competitive games, right? In a competitive environment, in basketball, if you don't just get better at basketball by playing 5-on-5 with people. You practice your free throws, you practice your three-pointers, you do drills so that when you are in the heat of a game, you don't let nerves mess you up and you can rely on muscle memory to shoot a free throw and score the game-winning point when the entire crowd is yelling at you and all the people in the back are trying to like wave their arms to mess you up. You just rely on your muscle memory to make that shot. And you practice over and over hundreds of free throws at the free throw line on your own to get better. And people said that's what sandbox mode is for video games. If you want League of Legends to be a competitive sport, then you got to do that, right? You should include that, and you shouldn't say that, you know, an expectation to get better. What are you talking about? That's what a lot of people were responding with. A lot of the pro players, or ex-pros mostly, and a lot of people in general are just a little bit upset like that. Excuse me. Now, I think that's definitely right. Okay, firstly, I agree with the competitive people, but at the same time, I'm coming from a bit of a competitive side. I got into League of Legends for competitive reasons. I love following the competitive scene. I play the game to hopefully get better, you know, to improve, and I would love that tool for improvement so I could shoot my own free throws and get better at my own increased pace, where instead of having to try flashing over a wall once every 3-4 minutes in a custom game or bot game or whatever, I can just do it instantly and practice basic mechanics like that. I'm with those people. But at the same time, I feel like it's a bit understandable if Riot is a little bit divisive on whether they want to wholeheartedly embrace the entire competitive scene, because keep in mind, the competitive side of League of Legends is the minority. The majority of players play League of Legends casually, okay? The majority of players don't even play ranked. Remember that. Keep that in mind. I think Riot is a little bit divided on whether they want League of Legends to be a full-on esport or a full-on video game, just casual video game. I think they're somewhere in the middle, or they want to be. And that's forcing them to make compromises and sacrifice things like a sandbox mode. So the majority of people don't play League competitively. The majority of people play casually. And so if Riot thinks that a sandbox mode is going to affect the casual experience or the casual mentality or the casual scene of League of Legends at all, then it's going to be natural that they're resistant to it, right? They don't want to drive away the player base that has made them the largest PC game in history to appeal to the minority of the player base that is the competitive scene. That's not to say that they're right that a sandbox mode would affect that at all, but if they think it will affect it, then it's understandable why they would be hesitant or resistant or want to find some other option so they could appeal to both sides of the community. I think they still want to support the competitive scene, as is seen by a lot of the responses that individual Rioters have come out and given after that statement, where a lot of them have just sort of backpedaled on what they said, saying that, you know, there should be something out there where League players can practice on their own like that, where League players can shoot their own free throws or whatever analogy. A lot of people said, or a lot of Rioters, a number of Rioters came out and sort of backpedaled on that statement, saying that, yeah, there should be something out there, right? There should be something if League of Legends is going to be a sport in that way. But it seems to me like Riot really wants to find their own solution that isn't a sandbox mode if they think a sandbox mode is going to be too divisive between the two sides of the community. And in the end, also, if they have to side with one portion of the community, they're going to side with the casual place. They're going to side with the larger side of the community. A lot of people might say, like, well, what about Dota? What about Counter-Strike? What about StarCraft or these other games that have sandbox modes? I don't know if StarCraft has one, but in the end, I think also Riot can, I mean, those games are not as big as League of Legends. It's probably a thing at Riot where they're thinking, you know, they feel like they're doing a lot right, I bet, with League of Legends and the current atmosphere in League of Legends, because the current atmosphere in League is what blew it up into the gigantic game that it currently is. So I think it's understandable if they're a little bit hesitant towards making any sort of change that could affect that atmosphere at all and drive away any player, whether it's competitive or casual, honestly. But again, sort of siding with the casual side since that's the majority of the player base. I think it's just a dangerous thing, honestly, for Riot to be transparent about this, because this is probably an issue that is really divisive within Riot itself. I would bet a large sum of money that all of the people that work in the esports departments with Riot would love a sandbox mode, but, you know, whatever people that work with the casual player base, whatever community managers would probably be on the opposite side of the fence. I bet it's a divisive issue within Riot themselves, and they, as a company, do not entirely know how they want to take League of Legends moving forward with the competitive side and the casual side, and where they want to be in the middle, hopefully supporting both sides of the community to their fullest. I think it's important for them to hopefully come to a bit of a conclusion or a bit of a better understanding where, at least hopefully in the future, if they are transparent with another divisive issue like replays or something where they sort of talk about that, then they can come out with a bit of a better statement where they're, you know, saying that they want to appeal to both sides of the community more so, rather than just saying they don't want you to be able to practice on your own because they don't want everyone to have to practice on their own, or whatever their statement was. In the end, though, I think it's important just for the community to voice our opinions at Riot in a cool and calm and collected manner. Maybe we've already blown the cool and calm part, but I think that it's just sort of giving our opinions to Riot in hopefully influencing them to make sure they know that this is actually something that's a really big deal to the competitive side, and really, if there is absolutely any way that they can implement anything like this, or at least make it a priority where they try to implement it rather than not working on it at all, which is what they said in their post, that's something that's really important. And I think that coming together as a community and sort of voicing that to Riot is an important thing, because overall Riot does a great job listening to their community. It feels like everything we've complained about this past year they have listened to and fixed. I mean, even if it's just some douche like me making a video saying Riot should be more transparent, and then they suddenly become more transparent, or us saying that, you know, our yellow trinkets shouldn't go on cooldown when we upgrade them, or this or that, or jungle items should be this or that. You know, it feels like Riot actually does a really good job listening to their community, and hopefully that we can voice our opinions in a very unified manner so they listen to it seriously and hopefully find something to appeal to everyone, where I just hope they don't have to sacrifice one side of the league or the other, the casual or the competitive one, because if they do, then I fear that they'll side with the casual side of things, which again is understandable, even if it is frustrating. But anyway, these are just sort of my ramblings and opinions on all of this. You can, of course, leave a comment in the description down below if you would like to voice your own opinions. I do hope that I would love to get a sandbox mode, man. I really need to practice flashing over some of those walls. But anyway, I hope you guys all enjoyed today's video. We'll be getting back to our regular, normal videos tomorrow. But until then, thank you all very much for watching. Good luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.